Sae Itoshi, one of the most beloved characters in Blue Lock. He is cold, logical, and calculated. He's everything fans imagine when they think of a genius. He is a prodigy, almost robotic in his perfection, and for many, that's a part of his appeal. But beneath that icy exterior lies a mystery. Fans have speculated for years about what really happened to Sae abroad. Why did he suddenly switch positions? Why does he treat Rin the way he does? Many believe Sae's ego was shattered during his time overseas, possibly by Luna or by another New Gen World 11 player who downright humiliated him. But I reject those theories. In fact, I believe something darker is at play. This is the sinister Sae Itoshi theory no one wants to consider. To break down exactly what I'll be talking about in this video, it could be divided into 3 parts. First, I'm going to talk about the common theory that Sae's ego was crushed abroad. Then, I'll lay out all the flaws I personally have with this theory, and lastly, I'll introduce my own personal theory. So first, let's discuss the common theory. The prevailing idea is simple. Sae, like many Japanese prodigies, went abroad and got hit with a hard dose of reality. He saw players so far beyond him that his ego collapsed. Disillusioned, he gave up on being a striker and became a midfielder instead. That change in turn set off a chain of events that impacted Rin, and fans love this theory because it aligns with the familiar tropes. The older brother who's just secretly trying to help out his younger brother, albeit with tough love, and the Japanese prodigy who just couldn't keep up with playing abroad. Even the manga and anime nudges in that direction. Sae tells Rin that there are people in the world far stronger than him, and we have scenes where Jinpachi Ego explains that this is quite a common phenomenon. And that is the reasons why many people in the fandom see this as basically canon. Now let's talk about the flaws. Let's get one thing straight. If you assume Blue Lock will follow common tropes, you're setting yourself up to be misled. Just like Kira. Remember him? He thought Blue Lock would play out like every other anime, that teamwork and being well-rounded would be good enough. He got bodied, because Blue Lock loves to thrive on subverting expectations. So when fans compare Sae and Rin to characters like Itachi and Sasuke, they may be walking straight into a trap set by Kaneshiro. Now that isn't to say that we should go full contrarian with every theory, but we do need to think deeper and push beyond the surface level. Let's look at the facts. Sae wasn't some washed up striker when he switched positions. He was dominating the youth league. Media attention, hat tricks, he was the best player in the field, or at least arguably was. And don't forget, before he told Rin he was becoming a midfielder, he was still playing as a striker. Rin had seen all of his games and didn't mention a position switch. So this means that the change was either that night or came shortly after. He even made the bench for Real. He was literally good enough to stand alongside the best. That's not really someone whose ego was crushed. That sounds more like someone who intentionally adapted. Even if Luna or a Gen 11 player embarrassed him, it's unlikely Sae would abandon everything after just one loss. Especially not to a generational talent. Look at Blue Lock's own cast, they got humiliated by the World 5 and they didn't throw in the towel. If this were really about one bad experience, it would just be a weak case of Golden Boy syndrome. But Sae is too good, too composed for that. He literally tells a U20 Japan team that he wants to be the best in the world. Not the best midfielder, simply the best. That panel alone should disprove the theory that his ego was shattered. He still clearly has a drive, he just shifted his method. During his talk with Rin, he says becoming the best midfielder was his choice, not something that was forced onto him. He decided pragmatically, and once we get the explanation of fast learners versus geniuses, it all clicks. Isagi is an egoist and a fast learner, so he was able to adapt while holding on to his striker dream. But at that moment, even Isagi had to rely on somebody, and he had Michael Kaiser, who was strong, but close enough to his skill level that he could both use and evolve with. Sae probably didn't have that luxury. While he was mostly playing in the youth team, his promotion meant he was now practicing along Real Madrid's senior players. Players at that level don't collaborate with you, they expect you to adapt to them. He had to learn how to assist, how to support, how to defer. But that's where the deeper issue begins. Sae's ego wasn't fully nurtured. In fact, he was in the system where his individuality was being overwritten. He was alone in Spain, a foreign country, foreign language, foreign expectations, and he had no one to push him forward in the way he truly needed. And that's where we have to pause, because part of Sae's disdain for Japanese soccer may came from the realization that his ego wasn't built up properly. If Japan had helped him nurture his ego, if it had surrounded him with strikers that could push and challenge him, maybe his dream wouldn't have shifted. Maybe he wouldn't have had to recalculate. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He is still a product of that same conformity that ncmfyt ego despises. Now, Isagi may have also grown up in Japan, but he had the luxury of going to Blue Lock. In that structure, at the very least, it gave us room for his ego to grow. Sae Itoshi did not have that. And let's think of those puzzle pieces that Isagi thinks. Let's see what kind of formula we can get for Isagi. He was an adaptive learner, but he had the ego, so he turned an evolving striker. Sae Itoshi may have been an adaptive learner, but without that ego, the midfielder seemed to be his next best option. And maybe that's where some frustration boils over. If Sae Itoshi maybe had at least one striker who could have matched his level, who could have helped him evolve instead of forcing him to defer once he got to Spain, things could have been different. Maybe he could have made those discoveries by himself much earlier, but there wasn't anyone. Well, no one except Rin. And this is where my theory takes a bit of a dark turn. Sae Itoshi couldn't harness the egos of the senior players, at least not yet. At least not in a way that can allow him to rise as the best in the world. But let's say there was a gifted genius that he could maybe mold. Someone he could observe, nurture, control, and somebody he could maybe use. Someone like Itoshi Rin. It's easy to believe that Sae loves Rin, and that this is just a harsh sibling with tough love. But how much of this is really true? Before Rin started playing soccer, we really don't know much about their relationship. Sae didn't just invite Rin out of nowhere. It was only after Rin jumped onto the field, stole a pass, and scored that something clicked. In that moment, Sae caught a glimpse of what it could be to play with someone who has that striker instinct, and that was maybe his spark. For that moment, Sae was intrigued. Maybe he wasn't planning far ahead like some supervillain, but he was genuinely fascinated. He asked questions to Rin. He observed his little brother with curiosity. Rin was a genius, a piece that Sae maybe didn't have growing up. Someone who could match his instincts. But there's the catch. When he was in Spain, isolated, stressed, maybe even bitter, a realization hit him. He could use Rin. He didn't have the ego of Real Madrid stars working for him yet, but just maybe there is someone else, someone he could mold, manipulate. A genius he can groom into the perfect striker. He appeals to Rin's ego, promising him to make him the best striker in the world, maybe out of love, maybe out of ego, but probably both. But there's guilt too. When Sae speaks to Rin, there's a certain emptiness in his eyes, a detachment. It's like he's asking himself, am I really going to use my little brother like this? So when Rin rejects him during their adult reunion, Sae snaps. From a love perspective, he's scared. Rin's lack of ego could doom him in the future, but maybe from the egoist point of view of Sae, he just felt betrayed, like his plan had failed, and that disappointment maybe was the straw that broke the camel's back. Maybe Sae was looking at Rin as possibly someone that can bail him out, and in that moment, when he doesn't receive it, he sort of just snaps on him. Now, it's no coincidence that only after Rin unlocks his monster ego in the NEL that Sae finally offers him a place at Real. It's like him saying, you're ready now, I've sort of fattened you up, now I can finally use you as my missing piece. And that is the egoist that is Sae Itoshi. Now, I know a lot of you guys are thinking, Danny, it's obvious that Sae was just waiting for Itoshi Rin to sort of be his own person, so that he's not going to always rely on Sae, and now Sae can play alongside him, knowing that he's now ruining his ego. But I have one big problem with that. Well, two, really. First and foremost, we still have no actual evidence of Sae still wanting to be a big brother to Itoshi Rin. We see this all the time, that Sae seems to not care at all about Rin. That is, after all, what is being presented to us. We assume there's some hidden love or some ulterior motive that revolves around his love for Itoshi Rin, because we're just assuming that. And again, be very careful about following the norms when watching an anime like Blue Lock. They love to subvert expectations. They made it clear time and time again, this is not like any other anime. The absolute closest thing we can say is when Sae Itoshi gave Rin a ticket to watch his game. But that would have been his first game, I believe, as a midfielder. So that could have just been Sae's way of trying to convince Itoshi Rin to stick with their plan. Secondly, if Itoshi Sae really wanted Rin to be his own person, why on earth would he invite him to Real? You can make the argument that Rin is ready. He's already fully accepted himself as his own player, and Sae is now comfortable playing around him without fear that he's going to sink him down. I have a big problem with that though. One, it still really wouldn't make much sense if you really want to play it safe, and if you're a loving brother like Sae Itoshi and this whole time you just want him to build his own ego, you would still prefer he go somewhere else. Additionally, his battle with Isagi is not over yet. Rin lost. If you're waiting for Rin to fully be his own person, it has to be when he defeats Isagi. If Sae is picking up Rin right when he's unlocked his ego but hasn't actually succeeded in his own mission yet, it's still a way of manipulation, trying to convince Rin in some way that he needs him in order to succeed. Itoshi Sae is trying to manipulate him like I'm theorizing, then this will be the perfect opportunity. Sae Itoshi can tell Rin that he now has the perfect ego that he needs, but that he cannot defeat Isagi without him, and thus Rin will come back into Sae, and thus Sae Itoshi will finally be able to get what he wanted to on that fateful night. But let me know what you guys think. This could just be all speculation. You know me, I like to be a bit of a contrarian in the Blue Lock community, but I really feel like there's more to this than the basic Itachi Sasuke sort of, oh, I love you but I can't show it to you kind of thing. If you made it this far, one, I extremely appreciate it, and two, most importantly, please subscribe. It will mean a lot. And please check out the Twitter and the Discord link. I would really appreciate that. Deuces.